Welcome back to 50/50, and I'm delighted to be here with, I was going to say with my Cindy Kennedy. How nice.
Oh.
As today got closer, I said to you when you arrived, I felt happier and happier as we got to this moment, right? Because, you know, the way we met was I did your course, Rise to Shine, in the year of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And what an amazing adventure that was, which we'll talk more about. And you know what I was thinking about this morning? We, at the end of our cohort, do you remember we made you a video of us singing to, wasn't it I'm going to give myself permission to shine? Wasn't that the song we chose?
I'm trying to remember what it was called. I just remember like laughing with so much joy that you did that. I can't remember what it was called. It was brilliant.
I think we had at least one person in America. We had everyone spread out throughout Australia, and I was like, right, what you have to do is you have to lip sync to this song, and it's all out of time. Andy spent hours editing it, and we're all going, we're gonna give myself permission to shine. And remember, we changed the words because it was about you and about the course. That was so cool, man. Like, you know, when you don't think about something, but then because I was going to interview you, I thought, oh, well, what have I done with Cindy, right?
Yeah.
And that was a big time. That was such a big, great time. Are you still running Rise to Shine?
I am. I'm running it more corporately right now with the plan to get back to the kind of the global cohorts.
Yeah.
That's coming. But at the moment, it's been corporate.
I actually love that you're doing it corporate even more than personal, because the need for that feminine in business and powerful feminine, but as the feminine, right? So we're sort of getting straight into it, but that's all right. So I read this thing the other day, I can't remember where it was, and someone had commented that females are able, in a corporate setting, females are able to take on male characteristics, but males have found it harder to take on female characteristics. Now, I don't know how much I agree with that for both sexes, but one of the things I've seen in women, particularly in women of what would you say, big power, high level in corporate, is often they will take on the male in a way that is an ugly version of the male, right? So they'll become kind of this version of impenetrable, potentially inauthentic, very powerful, but not in the beautiful power that a woman can. You know what I mean when I say that?
100%. And very caught up in their head.
Yes.
Very, very powerful minds, but often, not always,
Yeah.
but often very disconnected from their bodies, from allowing themselves to really feel. Because when we feel, we start to become vulnerable.
Yes.
And I believe they've over-identified with the male.
Yes.
With the male energy.
Yes.
Which has given them a lot of us have benefited from how society's been structured.
Yes.
And as much as we see that it doesn't benefit everybody, I think until all of us realize, those of us that it does benefit, even us women right now, like as a white woman,
Yes.
I benefit in some ways from how things are. There's a lot of ways I don't.
Yes.
But I'm not disadvantaged to the degree that so many others are. And until I really see that, recognize it, and speak up against it, it won't change. So I say that because there's been a lot of benefits with how everything's been structured that we've all bought into for the women that you're talking about who've been over-identified with male to stay that way. And I'm talking externally, achievement-wise.
Yes.
But internally, oh, no, whole different experience.
You've really just made me realise some of the women that I run into, because I tend not to work with the highest levels in big organisations. So I tend not to be at the CEO level, I think they call it C-suite, which I've never totally understood, but I take it to be the executive level. But when I bump into women at that level, you've just explained to me, I think, what the experience is I have, which is that I'm not bumping into the real person. And when you said the disconnect between the head and body, I thought that's what I'm bumping into. I'm bumping into a powerful intellectual who is protecting themselves through a lack of vulnerability, showing their cleverness, but not showing their heart.
Yes, because that is a very scary place to go.
It would be so. Danielle and I and me myself talk about my vulnerability around doing the process we're in right now, right? So I had this feeling in my heart, I think what I'm meant to do, and I shared this on the intro episode, I think I'm meant to share the ways that I fail or I struggle and how I've used the wisdom of the world to overcome that and feel joy and happiness, which thank you, me, Jesus, and everyone involved, I feel a lot more these days.
Yeah. Awesome.
But since the, they say, what do they say, beginner's luck, since the fresh start of this process and really feeling empowered by the beauty of it and the openness of it and the magic of what had happened with Danielle and I and being in this room, when I think what happened was when we had to slow down the pace a little bit because of Grayson selfishly being in year 12, he's in the room, so I'm sure he's feeling my vitriol.
So selfish.
So selfish, right? Because the pace slowed, what it allowed was my saboteur or my demons or my shame or my whatever start to come up. And the last couple of weeks, on and off, when I thought of seeing you today, I thought, I might just get Cindy to coach me for the full hour. That might not be fair for anyone. But when you say about that, when I think of how vulnerable I've felt as someone who is not trying to exist at that highest level, imagine being the kind of person that can be fully self-expressed, body, heart and mind, and survive in the current corporate world.
And that's why when I go in and I work with the women, it's got to be in a group setting.
Yes.
It's not one-on-one because they need each other.
Yes.
And the whole purpose with how I guess I've set it up is I want to make sure that you all experience a safe place and you get to do it together, because then you get to see what other women are going through. And hands down, how many times have we said this, having our own experiences? If the one thing that I give and offer those is for them to go, oh my gosh, other women are going through the exact same thing as me.
Yeah.
If that's it, that is such a huge win because you don't feel alone.
Yes.
Then you feel like it's safer to start sharing things.
Yes.
And you start to develop deeper empathy for each other, deeper empathy for yourself. You feel like when you're going to take a risk, you've got people backing you up, cheering you on when you actually go out and like, hey, I'm going to actually speak my truth here.
Wow.
Hey, I'm actually going to say no. Hey, I'm actually going to challenge the fact that I can't put myself forward for that because you said it's full time. And I'm only working part-time because I'm raising my kiddos, but I'm smart enough and I want to do that.
Yeah.
I've got people to rally behind me, and it doesn't take Cindy, the creator of this program, to be there.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yeah, I really love it. I really love it. Selfishly, it makes me want you to spend more time in corporate than private because I think the work is so big in that world. So I can imagine. I can imagine being in the room with you because, of course, I've worked with you, but then I also get what you're saying because even like I think my version of the vulnerability is actually quite particular to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a corporate setting that has a few different flavours on it, but it does have a very corporate feeling. And when you see people's posts on there, not always, but often there'll be a very, and yours aren't like this, of course, but there'll be a very corporate, this is how we do it, this is how we play it, this is what we can post, this is what we can't post. And that it feels restrictive to my heart. It's like, I've had very generous people like or comment stuff I've put on there that has been quite, let's be gentle, different. I was going to say odd. Very true for me, but that it's kind of what you're saying for the women in the corporate setting to go, I've got a team that's going to help me is a little bit like my version there of going, okay, I'm going to do this. And then my team has been either, you know, my friends, family, Danielle, people who comment or like it. I go, okay, I've still got some support, but I feel very exposed.
Well, one, I love the fact that you're even doing it because that's some of the growth that I've seen in you. Because we haven't hung out in a couple of years.
We haven't.
Right? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So it's just seeing little bits in little pieces, like hanging out with horses.
True.
But even that was a group, and it was kind of each of us having our own experience, doing
Yes.
some horse healing thing.
Yes.
Or it's just been little things from the side. So for me, seeing you start to post and share more of that, I'm like, oh, Tam's starting to really come into her own.
How cool.
Oh, Tam is starting to like really use her voice. That's always been powerful, but she's starting to really know it on a deeper level.
That's
Does
really
that make
cool.
sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm a big, I actually used to have a big hang up with corporate years ago when I never really worked corporate. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to fit corporate. What's corporate? And I felt the same way with LinkedIn.
Yeah,
way
yeah.
back too. Very much so that it's this anything that feels boxy.
Yes.
And very corporate-y. And I don't wear suits. That's not me.
Yes.
Yeah, I judged it 100%. I judged corporate.
Yeah.
Until the first time I got thrown in it when I got sponsored to come and work here as a leadership consultant.
Yeah.
And I'm first time going in going, oh, these are just humans. These are just people that happen to like conglomerate in a building.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with LinkedIn's. I've kind of come from a different perspective that I like the fact that people are there because they're wanting to create opportunities for themselves to step into more visibility. They want to find jobs that light them up.
Yes.
So I've kind of come in a different place, but I love the idea of kind of breaking it down and making it more personal. Whereas Facebook is all about the personal.
Yes.
Right? I like bringing the personal, the realness, the color, the Tam, right? Like for me, some of the goofiness and the highs and the lows, right? Like you, like I can be so goofy and so daggy 1 second, and then so deeply moved and feeling and in tears the next second, right? And sometimes amongst that, I can forget the power of my voice, that it still projects clearly and cleanly to those who want a really crisp, solid message. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
So I'm kind of playing around with that myself, but I feel like we've got to bust it open.
Yeah.
Because once again, they're just humans, just like us.
That's the key. That's the key. So when I interviewed Peter Slocum and I was talking to her about the highest level of business, and I was saying I was very angry and upset with them because I'm working with their subordinates, right? And I see the impact. And she helped me by saying, when you say they, you lose the humanity. And what you just said gave me the next level of freedom around, of course, these are just people who deserve my love and respect, and they are in whatever situation they're in. I literally just spoke to Danielle recently about working with people at one of my clients and having the honour of getting to know them in a way that other people just don't know them. Yeah. And of course, all these beautiful beings are running around. And they're only behaving a particular way if I don't appreciate it to survive. And I'm doing my thing to survive. And, I really love that. And I really love the idea of, well, it's for me, you're a bit of a trailblazer for me because I feel like you've been doing this work and in this way for longer and been expressing you as you. You're exactly right. It's very nice to hear your feedback that you've seen me because, of course, I used to just really never be on there. I couldn't, even in a much more conservative way. I was like,
yeah,
you know,
that's right.
No, we're not doing that. So, that's awesome to hear that feedback. And then, I really appreciate, I kind of want you everywhere because I know the difference it made to me as a person, Rise to Shine, but I do really like the idea of you being in the corporate world, because I can just imagine it'd be like breath of fresh air running through, right? And these women feeling their hearts opening, feeling safe. You know, when I think of you and, you say, what are people meant to do in life? And every time I've watched you do what you do, I feel like, universal spirit comes down through you and comes out. It's the most pure, loving. I can always feel how true it is for you to support women and have them feel this freedom. And there's nothing unreal about it. It's totally who you're being when you do that work, right?
Isn't that so amazing that you hearing what I just said was just important for you to hear?
Yes.
And it's not about a pleasing or like, oh, thank you. I mean, it's nice, but
Yeah.
all of us need someone to share our presence because we're in our bodies. We're doing our thing, right?
Yes.
We can feel a certain amount of impact with our even friends. We can tell when we're making them laugh. We can tell when things are happening. Can feel that energy in a space, but we can't always give it language.
Yeah.
Right. And so to hear other people feed it back,
Yes.
is really important. So, so thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I think what happens is I think we all think the person we're telling would already know that, but then you're right, you're having your own internal experience. So it is confirming to hear that how you hope you're being is what people are experiencing.
Confirming,
right?
that's the word.
Confirming, right? Validating, confirming. Yeah, it's like, oh, good, because that is exactly what
That's
I'm
right.
trying to do. So there's so much we could talk about. I'm obsessed with where you originally came from. I haven't been there as yet, and I just can't imagine how beautiful it is. Of course, I'm talking about Canada. Now, I don't know if you know the rules or people have told you the said rules, but when you hear an accent and you're wondering whether it's Canada or America, USA, you say Canada. If you're wondering whether it's New Zealand or Australia, you say New Zealand. And if you're wondering if it's Zimbabwe or South Africa, you say Zimbabwe. You're welcome, everyone who just heard that and has been being an idiot running around saying USA, Australia and South Africa, because all of the three countries where you can risk it and the other ones won't mind so much are, in my opinion and my experience of them, the more gentle of the two countries, the less, shall we say, arrogant. And so am I right in saying you're from the British Columbia part of Canada?
Close. So I'm on the other side of the Rockies. So I'm actually from Alberta. So I'm from a city called Calgary.
Yes.
Affectionately known as Cowtown. So when I got off the plane in Perth for the first time ever, I just remember going, oh my God, this is just so bizarre because I felt so at home. It was very familiar. So while I lived in Calgary and I grew up there, I also lived in Vancouver, which is in British Columbia, on the coast, for about 6 years before I came over here. So when I got to Perth, it was this weird. Calgary has this oil and gas background, like a little small city with a big heart. I always thought it was about the same size as Perth, but it's still actually only half the size of Perth. And big injection of money, blue skies. Like, yes, it gets freezing cold in winter, but it's sunny and big horizons.
Oh, wow.
But then Vancouver is the port city, right?
Yeah.
You've got the ocean, which to me just brings this fresh perspective that I find you can get when you're by the ocean and ideas and this outdoor city as well. So it was just a real weird meeting of these kind of two places on the complete other side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a little bit biased against my own place, which is here.
Yeah.
Because for me, the flat brown couldn't compete with the Rockies because I'm obsessed with mountains now, right? Yeah, I just think they're the most amazing, wonderful things that have ever been, I was going to say put on the earth, but they're kind of the crushing of the plates popping up, right? Doesn't sound so gentle.
No, crushed by the earth.
They're the most beautiful, crushed by the earth. So weird question, but I need to know, how do you cope without the mountains near you? Or is it not the same obsession that I have that you have for your Rockies?
Oh, if you ask me, like I'm a nature girl through and through, always have been. If you were to ask me what kind of girl, I'd be mountain girl.
Okay.
Mountain girl, mountain girl, mountain girl. I climb mountains. I was in mountains all the time. And the first thing I do when I go back to Calgary is, I want to see my family, but I need to smell my Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, wow.
I actually crave that smell. And I never thought I'd actually leave. As much as I've always known I'm an adventurer, and in many ways I'm not surprised I live somewhere very different than when I grew
Yes.
up, I never thought I'd really leave the type of environment. I didn't think I'd even raise my kids in a place that didn't have like these types of rivers and these ravines and these mountains. Like
Yeah.
I always imagined that. So I can't remember what your question was, Tam, but one, no, mountains are important.
Yeah, I was basically how do you survive without them? Because I remember, and I was watching, you have a beautiful video on your website that describes part of your history and where you've come from, and it's a really wonderful thing to watch. And then you're about you, of course. Now I'm a researcher because I interview.
Right. Of course.
So I've done a bit of research.
Yes.
But I remember, I don't think it was from that. I actually think it was from us meeting at Rise to Shine, and you said Perth really felt like where you should be. It wasn't just, oh, yeah, let's pick somewhere, and then you arrived and went, okay, and then you meet your husband, okay. It was like, I think I'm meant to be here. Was that right? Was that the feeling for you?
My life flowed here. Seriously, everything came together. I wasn't meant legally, I wasn't allowed to actually be here. Like nothing would have lined up on paper for me to actually even legally be allowed to be here. Everything just moved and opened. And I think, there was a lot of challenges at that time in my life in terms of financial, in terms of health challenges. And as much as I loved the environment
Yes.
and my friends and all that, it was challenging. It wasn't flowing. It was like,
In Calgary or in Vancouver?
Well, Vancouver, actually. And so when I came here, it was for some reason, something just said, I am supposed to be here. And it didn't say like, I'm going to live here forever.
Yeah.
That wasn't the decision.
Yeah.
I made that decision later. But it was like, for some reason, I'm meant to be here. And I've got to trust this. And
yeah. Did
boom,
it
boom,
call
boom.
to you did Perth go, come here from Vancouver?
No, you know what happened?
What?
So I had, so I had my first love was an Australian from Sydney.
Okay.
Who came through the Calgary International Hostel while I was working. And my dad had just passed away. I was not looking for a boyfriend, wasn't looking at any, I was 22. And anyways, we just were like, God, who is this guy, right? So we fell in love. I ended up coming and getting my dream job working for an outdoor education company. I wanted to go back to Africa and do it there, but I didn't have experience with youth at risk. So they said, why don't you go check out Australia? Well, funny enough, I just fell in love with an Australian. It kind of, and especially with my dad having passed, I just really wanted something that was meaningful for me.
Yeah.
And I was really bored at university. Like I felt like I was just reading, regurgitating. It didn't actually hold any meaning for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really need this. And so next thing I knew, I'm over here and I'm doing all that and get hired by the company. And anyways, had this injury, flew back home in a spinal brace, had a lot of healing to do back in Canada.
Yes.
But my first love,
Yes.
every maybe 2 years, we would call each other.
Oh.
He was with someone. I was excited for him, think he might get married. Like it was no. And then at one point, we hadn't talked in a few years, and we just connected on the phone. And he was single, and I was single, and he had left Sydney and moved up like into like Mullumbimby, which is like,
I know
and we're
Mullumbimby.
like, we should connect. And I'm like, I actually could come over. And so I came over and realized, okay, he was my first love, but he's not going to be my forever love.
Yeah, right.
And then I flew over to New Zealand. I'm like, what am I supposed to friggin' do with my life? I was coaching at $30 an hour. I just got my coaching certification. I was coaching on Zoom for Skype on $30 an hour. Like, what am I doing with my life? So to answer your question, I just finished swimming with the dolphins. It was a 5 a.m. swim. And I was on this little tiny little place on the South Island going, where am I meant to go? Like, what am I doing with my life? And there was this little whisper that goes, Cindy, go to Perth. Go to Western Australia.
Wow.
And guess what we figured out?
What?
My husband,
Yes.
that same week, was on the North Island. He was traveling in a van by himself. I was traveling in a van by myself on the South Island. And it was that same time that I got that message to come to Perth. I didn't meet him till 9 months later. But isn't that
But you
fascinating?
had to get here
I had to
to
get here.
you had to have a little level of settled down in
That's
Perth
right.
so you could meet him.
That's right.
Isn't that
And I just
amazing?
made a connection my first morning here.
Yeah?
Guess what I saw?
What?
A pot of dolphins
Oh,
on the
come
Canning
on.
River.
Oh, come on.
I just made that connection, like dolphins. I just swam with the dolphins. They said, go to
Yes.
Perth. And dolphins are like my water animal. So,
Oh, that's beautiful. So you have, because when I was watching it was either in your video or in your About Me on your website, and I've known a little bit about this accident, but for me, the understanding of, because I think will you tell us a little bit, you tell us whatever you want, what happened, what did the healing involve? And I feel like it's been a long journey. Is that true, that process?
I'm still in it, actually. I
Oh,
get to see a
wow.
specialist for the shoulder part in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, yes. So what happened was, and this is probably, no, this is a big part of why I do the work that I do,
Okay.
is I was doing my dream job, like working in the mountains, being the outdoor adventure girl, right? My group called me Bush Barbie because
That's
there's a Barbie called
awesome.
Cindy. That
Oh,
there's a
that's so
Barbie called
cute.
Cindy,
I
very
remember
north.
Cindy. Yeah, I remember Cindy.
And I worked with a lot of guys, and actually they were my favorite group. My favorite groups were actually the guys.
Yeah.
They were my favorite groups, and so they're the ones that came up with that term. So we were in the Snowy Mountains, and usually before all the groups come, all of us outdoor educators would come together and we create the course. So you're going to be abseiling, you're going to be doing backpacking, you're going to be whitewater rafting, you're doing all this.
Yeah.
But you're also going to be doing the ropes course. And so when we come into a new area, because we would travel around Australia, we were in the Snowy Mountains this time, which is my favorite area of the ones we went to. And we would like prosec up trees, set up cables, and set up the high ropes course.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, so we would do that. And then, of course, we have to test it to make sure it's safe,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
So when it came to the flying fox, the zip line, which is always the last element
Yeah.
have you done a ropes course?
I have done a flying fox.
Okay.
I did not set it up. My husband will kill me, but I have to share this. After we got married in Port Douglas, we went up to maybe the Daintree, it was something like that. They had a flying fox and we were having a turn on it with he and my family who'd come over for the wedding, and my husband looked like a woodland creature. He's a slight build fellow,
I've met Andy
pretty
once.
faced, and he was on his flying fox ahead of me, and I thought he looks like a little woodland nymph floating through the trees. He will love that as a man, a very strong and handsome man.
Yes, Andy.
His name means manly. Andrew means manly, which is absolutely correct. But he does say about himself, I'm a lover, not a fighter. And he just looked like a particular fairy lover that day.
It was a little fairy nymph.
Oh.
But he was paving the way for you, right? Because he went ahead of you?
That's right.
Oh, look at that. That's the manly part of it.
That's right. Yeah, it's true. The manly parts that matter, he's got. And I didn't actually mean that physically, but may as well give him a shout out.
Way to go, Andy.
Just so you know, Annie, Danielle's reacting. I think she's concerned about the direction I've gone. He's a very understanding, caring fellow. So you're setting up. So I've been on one as the plonk the person in it and let them go. I have not set them up. And when you said we had to test them first, I did not like what was coming.
Well, no, we tested. It was fine. It was great.
Good.
We'd get the biggest, burliest dude, and we'd throw a backpack down there and swing it, and then the big, burly dude would go, and it was going to be fine. We're all good, feeling
Loving.
good.
Okay.
Then the next morning, our groups arrive, and my group had a couple of days doing a few other activities because we have to make our way. We've got 10 days together in the bush.
Oh, wow.
Right? And when we got to the ropes course, my group was the first one out of all the groups who was actually going to do the whole ropes course this one day. And the coordinator came up to me and she's like, so Cindy, we've changed the braking system on the Flying Fox. And I remember going, huh? And as she proceeds to tell me what they've done and changed, my body just seriously, it went tight and heavy, and everything in me was screaming, no.
Oh, wow.
No.
Oh, wow.
Right? We all have these moments where we're like, don't do this.
Yes.
Don't walk through. Don't stay on that date.
Yes.
Don't take that job.
Yes.
Don't. We all have those, right?
Yeah.
And we all know and we don't listen to it,
Yeah.
it's usually not a great outcome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The learning moments in our life,
Yeah.
right? But what happened is that very next moment, my head went, she's been around longer than me. She's older than me. She probably knows better than me.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's a whole group of these like 16-year-old boys wanting to get going,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I felt the weight of expectation. So in that moment, I shoved down what my body and everything in me knew was not a good thing.
Yeah.
Shoved it down, rosy colored glasses. Okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to
Yeah.
be okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Positive
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
positive thinking. And long story short, this rope that they've now introduced that was not a component before, and the person that I had to choose, any 16-year-old kid,
Yeah.
had to hold this rope out of the way.
Oh.
And so as I was flying, so I showed them the whole ropes course, the low ropes course, then I showed them the high ropes course. I get up there, and now it's time for me to do the final thing, which is a zip line, and I
Yeah.
tell them what to do. I get someone to hold the rope to the side. And at my peak speed, and I'm not a tiny girl. I'm not a nymph like Andy. I've got some substantial,
Grayson, there will be editing to do. I repeat, editing to do. Just make a note of that. Everyone can listen to this, apart from Andy.
At my peak speed,
Yeah.
the rope is not supposed to be in front of me. And it is. And all the slack that was on the floor was now thrown up in the air, and my peak speed, it wrapped itself around my waist, knotted on itself. And I continued to fly forward, and it snapped me backwards and then snapped me forward. And
did it break your back?
I was able to walk when I got off. The pain was excruciating. I remember that. I should have gone to the hospital instantly. But oh no, don't do that. It's painful, but we'll continue.
Oh, wow.
And I slept on the ground with it. And the next day I had the group that I wanted to support them and inspire them to rock climb.
Oh, wow.
And back in the ancient days, you would actually be a belayer. You'd belay from the top. So they would be climbing up to you instead of the other way around where you're actually down at the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when you see people
Yeah,
belaying
at the bottom, yeah.
Yep. And this one kid who was probably the least popular kid was wanting to give the most challenging route a go. And I had all the ropes and the harness around me, and he fell.
Oh.
And I was I just crying. I was in so much pain.
Oh, God.
And once again, instead of telling him just to go down, I want this for him.
Oh.
I want this for him.
Yes.
And he kept falling and eventually got it. And once he got up, I got the emergency radio because no one's supposed to know we have radio because we're on our own in the bush.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, get me the hell out of here now.
Oh, God.
So we just thought, broken ribs, L4, L5, sciatica. Like, that's what it was, right? But it just proceeded to get so bad that I had to, fly home in a spinal brace.
Oh, wow.
I could always walk, but I was told I'd never be able to run again.
Oh, wow.
Had to learn how to walk properly, move my body properly, but we never dealt with, it ended up with a C1, C2 split. I would faint. But my arms were in the air. So when I got snapped, the whole lower stuff was what we dealt with.
Yes.
But then it was all shoulder and neck stuff, of which the shoulder stuff's really come on this time in my life.
Right.
My back is like the bomb. And I would say that pregnancy and that was so healing for me. Getting pregnant, carrying, it was very healing, not for my heart. It was healing for my body.
Yeah.
It really was. But yeah, we've got some other stuff going on. So,
yeah, wow.
But to come back to, that's a big part of why I do this,
Yeah.
because our voice, we need to learn how to trust our wise selves.
Yes.
And yes, we have, as we get older, we have a lot more, instances we can look back on.
Yes.
To bank and go, wow, like I know if I do this, but we still don't always do that.
Yeah, it's true. Especially when, like you said, there was other very good logical factors. And I can hear the two things. One, the awareness you had of your body, but your brain coming in over the top and saying, no, it'll be all right and don't make a fuss. And that connected with that care for other people. I want him to succeed. I'll literally sacrifice my body to have this child succeed. And that battle that I think a lot of us have around, well, it's good to do things for other people, right? It's good to be a good person. And where's the line between good and martyr, you know, or good and right?
Yeah.
Because isn't it funny how life works? Like, I wouldn't have wished that on you, and the ongoing consequences, I would never wish that on you. And then the impact you have for other people is partly connected to potentially that terrible moment and consequence, right?
Yeah.
You would have still done caring work for sure, because you always had that. But like you said, it may have been more in that outdoorsy way, or maybe not quite as impactful.
Yeah. Always, like, I know it's part of it, and I've let go a lot of, like, even when I found out with the shoulder there's 3 tears in the cartilage, and I'm like, and someone goes, well, how would that have happened? I'm like, I think I know. But I had this, like, a wave of emotion go through me, almost like this another residue of, like, seriously.
Yeah.
And then it was just that, okay, I know, because it has been incredibly empowering. Has there been times where I've been so, like, I'm really done and over this?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it really has been a big triumph in so many ways.
Yes.
Right? And so when I see others go, oh my God, I know you've got this. Like, I know the body heals.
Yes.
I know you've got the power to heal. I
Yes.
know that.
Yes.
Right?
I literally know that.
I literally know
yeah.
that. And I also still need to embody that for this next part.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah, 100%. It's a big part of, yeah, who I became.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know enough about this subject, but it's fascinated me for the last few years, you know, the body keeps the score and the trauma stuff and all the rest. And I don't know if you heard me share on here, but I started doing some yoga, and when it was Peter actually who said to me, what have you noticed? I said, I hold a lot of happiness in my hips.
I heard that. And that's incredible, because you know the whole hips and the pelvis.
Yeah.
That's really about your purpose.
Oh.
Yep. So when you actually, like, move the hips and rotate the hips, that actually can send out balance. Yes, there's a lot of emotions in there.
Yeah.
And also it's very connected to your purpose.
Huh.
So, and here we are doing your podcast.
And here we are doing
And
my
here
podcast.
you are putting yourself out there.
Right?
Right?
Awesome. That's so cool. When you were talking about the body, you have done body work for a while, but you're doing some new work around the body. And if I'm not mistaken, you've been doing some Kundalini yoga. Kundalini? Kundalini. Are you doing that publicly as yet, or have you just started that process, or what's that? Because for you, this part of the energy, the connection to the body, like, it seems to be getting stronger as someone watching you, right?
So what I noticed, even with, just think yourself with Rise to Shine, even with gals that took Rise to Shine.
Yes.
Not all of them, but I'd say, I'm going to say 85%. Also started going to osteos on their own, or massage, or doing some kind of body work, right? Once we start to open up, we start to go, oh, these amazing bodies need some extra time, attention, attuning, and aligning.
Yes.
Right? It's not just this part.
No.
Right?
No.
And for me, it feels like it's a real natural step. And when I went and did my Kundalini yoga certification, I was doing it so selfishly for me. Like, I was so excited to be a student again.
Right?
Like, you know what it's like? It's wonderful to be a facilitator. It's wonderful to be a speaker or a coach. And just to let yourself dive in and learn. And I wasn't going, I'm going to teach this after.
Yeah.
No. I just always gave myself grace that I might.
Yeah.
Knowing myself, I'll share parts of it. But I already did. And when I came onto Kundalini, I tried many different yogas in my 20s. And I've tried Hatha. I really got into Ashtanga, which is like
wow,
flow.
that's strong, Ashtanga.
Yeah, and I went and did like a retreat in Hawaii on Ashtanga and did all this. And when I lived in Vancouver, Vancouver's like the hub of yoga. Like every corner, there's like a yoga studio.
Oh, wow.
And the one near me, everyone was wearing white, these turbans. And I'm like, what's that cult? there's a cult happening nearby, right? But I'm also very like, I'm a very curious soul, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, but it always smelled so good. Every time the door would open and close, it always smelled really beautiful. You could kind of look in and I was like, it looks beautiful. And I'm like, I'm just going to wander in one day. And I did. And they have like this beautiful free chai tea that you could pour yourself a little
Oh,
bit. There's this meditation room that I could peek into, and it was stunning. Like it
oh,
was so beautiful.
wow.
Like, I need to just try one of these classes, right?
Yeah.
So I go in and I try it. My first thing is, they're not, this is unsafe because the teacher didn't come around and check our postures, but the postures were really different too. Like, I don't know if this is safe. And then we got to doing the mantra, like there's a lot of mantra work. So not singing, but sometimes it feels like it's singing.
Yeah.
Tam, I just bawled like a baby.
Oh.
I bawled and I came out of that feeling different. I'm
Oh.
like, what is this thing? And I haven't looked back. Like I went through a time where I stopped it for a while, but all the other yogas I either felt relaxed or strong or just stretched out and more flexible.
Yes.
But I feel changed when I do Kundalini.
Ah.
But I needed to find the right teachers.
Okay.
And yeah, so when I just finally, when Michael, my husband first met me,
Yeah.
even then I wanted, like, we were going to do yoga, and I could tell how far I'd come from any good girl stuff and not honoring my voice, because when we first dated,
Yeah.
I was like, why don't you come along to one of the classes? He's like, okay. I'm like, I'm going to wear my headscarf. And it's just like this little beanie, because if you don't have to, but the more you do it, you realize like the energy from other people, it like, whew, it's
Ah.
big. So if you just wear like a little bandana or something.
It's to protect your energy? Is that what
Yeah.
it's for?
Yeah, totally. And I was like, I'm going to wear that. And I was just laughing because years and years earlier, I probably would have like downplayed a bit of my spirituality, or maybe I'll just not wear that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just going for it. And I crack my open and watch him. I'm like, oh, you go, baby. And I'm just like going hard.
It's awesome.
And yeah, and so now I graduated in April when I was away with my family in Europe.
Ah.
And I'm like, what am I going to do now? I'm like, yeah, you know what? I feel like I want to like open this up to the people that want to do it, because it opens up channels that we don't realize that we have. And we talk about, look, we're so powerful and we're magical. We really are. But it's not, the brain is too, but the body is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a big part of the healing is, there's a big thing about the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic
Yes,
nervous
I've heard
system.
of this, yes.
Right? Well, people think Kundalini is, those that know Kundalini, it's like just raising the Kundalini energy. Yeah, but the reason we want to raise the energy is that we then want to spiral it down through our vagus nerve.
Ah.
So it becomes this incredible micro orbit of energy within our body that allows us to tap into more parts of our brain, right? Our nerves create this amazing attraction of light. It's scientific. This is what's cool. You say you've become a researcher
Yes.
by doing this amazing podcast.
Yes.
I've become a scientist, and I never would have put myself in the scientist kind of realm.
Yeah.
But the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, my God, there's science to prove this.
Wonderful.
So now I've just been running it like once a month, because
Yes.
I'm trying to find a location where I can run it once a week max.
Yes.
And I'm doing like a 2-hour intro, because once people get, the first part is just teaching them a little bit about why we might hold our fingers this way and what it does, why there's some mantra and what it is. So it doesn't
Yes.
seem so out there and weird.
Yes.
And then after that, you actually get to have a full experience and just let your brain go. And it's so cool what's already happening.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It sounds very cool.
Yeah.
And when you said about the science part, I think what can be great to give people an opportunity to try things is the science can relax them and have them feel safe in the experimentation.
Yes.
I think for a lot of us, probably myself included, I'm always a grain of salt kind of person. Like I'll try anything, but it doesn't mean that I'll be completely committed that it's real, but I'll be like, okay, let's have a look. But I can imagine with this kind of thing that, of course, has thousands of years of history, and you personally, I mean, now you have been involved with Kundalini for decades.
Yeah,
right? Like since you
absolutely.
first started,
Yep.
did you wear white to your first class in Vancouver?
Oh no, in Vancouver, I think I just wore like anything. But even to my first class here, funny enough, I wore white. You don't have to because I wore the next day I wore like this full bright orange. So that's the
Yeah,
thing. I mix
yeah.
it up. I'm not as traditional that way.
Is Kundalini, do you traditionally wear white?
Traditionally wear white. You can wear like a headscarf if you want. I just have this really cool bandana, and I didn't wear it the first time. And I got home after my first actual teaching a class.
Yes.
I seriously was like, whoa. And then I'm like, okay, from here on in, I will wear like a little, like it's just a
Yeah.
cute little headband that's thick enough that I just put it over.
Yeah, yeah, nice.
Now I really get it, especially holding the space as a teacher.
Yes. It's a real thing, right?
It's a real
It really,
thing.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
holding the space as a teacher. Well, being open yourself and then having the room with all the energy and all the fears and all the newness to it. And yeah, you're right. You would have to. It's something that I'm not experienced enough with yet. So I sort of have done less of it as the our business discern business has been successful, and Andy's taken on a lot of the training because I haven't wanted to do as much training because I realized I'm often not very comfortable in small groups. So I love one-on-one. This is the same with my friendships as well. My friends tease me that some of my most beloved friends wrote a poem for my 50th, and part of it was, you spend time with me, and they went, and me,
Yeah.
and me, like they're all individuals, but it's because I like the one-on-one. But part of it I realised through this process, actually, when Danielle and I were talking about it, is it's an inability to manage my energy very well. So I find that I'm both impacted by other people's energy, even if it's not particularly negative. I feel sort of out of sorts. And then because of my own history of social anxieties and stuff like that, I find it hard to connect when there's more than one person. But I can do 300 people because I'm very separate then. You know, when you're on the
Right.
stage,
Yes.
I can kind of beam the love or beam the humour or whatever, but I don't have to be with half a dozen people.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's something that I don't know if I actually don't know. I suspect I may get reinterested in exploring it depending on what I want to do with different elements of my life. But as we sit right now, I love the freedom to just not have to do it, if that makes sense.
Yes, and you talked about that, so I'm glad that you're honoring that for now.
For now.
But keeping the door open.
Well, that's right, because I feel like there could be a possibility to do work I really want to do. Even what springs to my mind is doing, I love mindfulness. It's had the single biggest impact in my life for my mental health and joy. And when I think of working with a group, I think, I wouldn't want to have that door completely closed in case that comes up as an opportunity. I'm actually doing a 6 or 7 day retreat in December with Open Ground. Open Ground was how I first got introduced to mindfulness, and I did mindfulness-based stress reduction. I did it in 2011, and then after Sam was born, so maybe 2015, Open Ground is run by this incredible woman who I want to have on this podcast. I'm going to ask if she'll come on when I'm over in Sydney. She doesn't know this yet, called Timothea Goddard. Tim, she goes by. And they have I think it's called MBTI, but I can't. Oh, yeah, Mindfulness Based Training Institute. So once you've done enough mindfulness as an individual, you can do a long retreat, and then you can look at doing mindfulness teacher training. And I have a secret feeling it might be somewhere in my future, but not like now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, you're on the pathway.
Maybe. Maybe the retreat's sort of step number one to go. I've always wanted to do one, and so I'm going to do it, and it's going to be very interesting. I don't feel nervous at all because I never feel nervous ahead, and then I'll get to something and go, oh shit.
Did you get nervous for this today?
Nah, it's just what normally happens is I go, I wonder what's going to happen. And then like I said to you, I just felt happier and happier the closer it got. And then I'll have this little moment of, I hope it goes okay for Cindy and I, but it's only like a passing moment. And then I go, right, let's go. And then in amongst it, I will have moments of, am I on the right path, or am I listening well enough, or am I asking a good enough question? But to be honest with you, I just feel like every time we've had time one-on-one together, and see one-on-one, I'm always much better one-on-one, even though once I knew everyone in Rise to Shine, I was also okay with the group, because if I know the group's completely safe, then I also have the freedom, right?
Yeah.
But because of who you've been for me, I go, oh no, Cindy and I will have a good time, and I'm safe with her because she's loving and wants me to do well, and that's her whole thing. Like, why would I be worried about that? I'm literally in the, what do they say in your, being held, like, what is that? It's a religious thing they say, something about a bosom, held to your bosom, in the bosom of your love. That my Catholic must be coming up.
I feel like I need to touch my bosom now.
Right? Or was it you that was it you? Is it a coincidence? Or I read a post. Oh no, it was a friend shared it, who's a psychologist, talked about the 20-second hug for oxytocin. There's another one about for marriages, the 9 or 10-second kiss. You can actually go twice as fast with a kiss as a hug.
Yeah.
And then I read this thing the other day, which I've started practicing, and you put your hand on your heart, your left hand, and you hold it there, and it has the same impact as a hug. And it actually, you can feel it as you do it. And do you remember, were you ever able to breastfeed when you had Tommy?
Yes.
Do you remember the oxytocin? Can you still bring up that feeling of the oxytocin?
No, because my nipples were just so torn.
Oh.
That I think I canceled
I
that.
so know. Well done for doing.
So no.
Well done for doing any breastfeeding. We could talk about that for an hour, because I had quite the journey myself.
Right.
But once I got the nipple shield.
Same here.
But still no good.
It helped,
Oh.
but yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
So now you're taking me back to another part of that whole story. But I used to have this thing when things were pretty settled, and I'd get this the letdown of the milk and oxytocin, right? And it, of course, as we know, it does this calming, soothing, so it's such a lovely feeling. Anyway, I thought it's great news, because if anyone doesn't have someone to regularly hug them, right, you put your hand there and leave it there for a little while. I sort of feel it very fast. I think as I've got a bit better at checking in with my body, I can feel things much faster, and also the mindfulness, I think, helps with that. But, if I think about when you and I first met with Rise to Shine, I mean, I'm always someone that spends a lot of time in my head, but I can think to even back then I was a lot more time in my head than in my body. And I think in that process of working with you was part of that process of coming down from, because it's a much more solid, warm, lovely place to live in one's body than in one's head, isn't it?
Isn't that the truth? Or especially when they're working together. That's a big one. But one thing with you, Tam, one thing I remember is you're one of those people that when a question landed with you,
Yeah.
you'd go, oh, and you'd sit there, and that's all you needed. And all I needed to do is I would just give you space, and you and you process it, and then you're like, okay. But that was you. So you take it and you take it deep.
Yes.
And you process it, and then you really have started to make that shift like that.
Yes, I actually remember that. I remember with you coaching me, and I think you made a comment to me once about that, like, wow, Tam, when I'm talking to you and you've got it, you really get it. And yeah, I really loved that, because I remember that process of going, Cindy, and often I come in flighty, right? Because I'm in my head or I'm anxious or whatever. I'll just start talking, and then you'd sort of talk to me, I'd settle more, and then, like you said, you'd say something. My last conversation with Danielle, we were talking about the saboteur and talking about coming back to your why. So if you feel lost or confused, using the compass of your why. And I was talking to her about my saboteur coming up in recent times, and she said, your why, and then it really struck me again, that why that I mentioned before, like be myself, be vulnerable, tell the story of my journey, and that's what I'm meant to do. And the thing that you said, which also rang true for me, is you said, and I'm looping back a bit, but you said sometimes I'll feel goofy or whatever, and then I'll say this message and I think it still has clarity. And I said, oh, yeah, of course it does, because as the person listening, I can hear it. When I was feeling like I was being too vulnerable or too much about me or my challenges or whatever, one of my concerns was, am I losing the clarity of the message that's useful for people? And then when I get feedback, it was still useful, or the fact. What I love, of course, because it's the thing I most need is validation, is when someone says, because you shared your vulnerability, that's what gave me the access to looking at it, right?
Yes. Yes.
There's definitely something about being willing to be honest about one's own troubles that allows others to get not the trouble bit, but get the juice that comes after it, right? Like,
100%. It was so interesting when you were saying this is going to be a 50-50 podcast, right? You were
yeah,
trying to figure it out. I remember imagining, for me, like interviewing people too, but in a different way. But I was same thing. It was like, I want to know, what is someone still like working on?
yeah,
Because a lot of times, and I have this issue with just people come to conferences and all that, right?
yeah,
Let's just say, pick any special day, right?
yeah,
And what it is, it's a lineup of speakers. Now, yes, you're a speaker, I'm a speaker, right?
yeah,
There's some beautiful speakers out
yeah,
there, and it's
yeah,
wonderful to hear speakers. We can get inspired,
yeah,
we can think differently. We're like, oh yeah, but where's the wisdom's in the room?
yeah,
How many humans are right there, and they're
yeah,
taking in one person's, that's great, but they're not
yeah,
having a chance to share a little piece of their own in that room, or to
yeah.
digest it in a way. Like, I have a real problem with that, because I'm all over the place here,
No,
because
no,
I'm
it's
like, I'm
fine.
getting all
It's fine.
fired up.
No, I
But
get fired up because
because
I know what you're saying. Say more, and then I'll say something you've made me think of.
okay, because that's how we grow and that's how we learn. And so often when we see speakers, we just seem to often get the afterwards, or
Yes,
people look and go, oh wow, like, they're just, by the simple stance of like standing up
yes,
and looking at a group,
yes,
just there's just a shift in the viewer and observer's mind,
yes,
that they've done something different
yes,
that they themselves may not have, even if you're
yes,
saying you can,
yes,
right?
yes,
It's so important to share the challenges, but not just the challenge you've been through, but even what are you working on now?
yes,
Because then you're like,
yes.
even if you've heard all of their challenges, like, wow, you still see them somehow that they've now figured it out.
Right? But this is the thing, right? Both not using the wisdom in the room and then the speaker having figured it out. It's part of that same paradox we're talking about. It's part of the same confusion around better than, worse than, where one should get to. It's the same as the corporate BS we were talking about and the corporate speak. And it's all the same thing, thinking that people in the room aren't going to know as much as the speaker, or the worst one, to be a good speaker, I have to come across like I know more than can you imagine the rooms that we speak to? We're talking women in leadership, women in mining. These people have so much more experience,
Yeah.
so much. And you've seen me speak. I'm admitting it all over the place. These guys are incredible, and I have to say, just to be fundamentally respectful, I have to say, look, I know who's sitting here. Let's see if I say anything you can take. I had I don't know, you weren't at this one. It was a recent one. I did women in mining, and I ran into a lady afterwards in the lift, and I had a good time. We had a good talk, lovely room of people. It was interactive because of what you're saying. Like, what do they think about? They'll find out more from the woman on their table than from me, right? Anyway, this lady, we hit the lift at the same time afterwards, and she goes, hello, like that. She's a miner. She goes, hello. And I go, hello. And she goes, I really planned on not liking you. And I go, okay. I said, how'd you go? And she goes, yep, end up liking you. And you could tell she was still pissed off. She's like, yeah, well, you're good. And I go, oh, that's good. She goes, yep. You could tell she was still shitty. She goes, have a good night. I go, yeah, you too. So funny. And then I did an acknowledgement of country, because I was up at that lightscape they did at Kings Park.
Yeah.
Right. So often you will find people who aren't Caucasians from Australia will have a better ability to see our Indigenous people than we will. So yourself, people I've known from Scotland, other places, can see with these clear eyes, right? Anyway, I've been trying over time to become more and more respectful. I see my unconscious bias come up, like Grayson has to sometimes edit me. I say these ludicrous things. I go, oh my God, I had no idea. I think of myself as loving and open, and I still have these old beliefs, right? Anyway, I was up at the Lightscape and they had some Aboriginal Indigenous artwork, and I'm walking on this land and I thought, wow, my people have been on this land for, I imagine it as like meterage. So like we're the top 1 mil and then there's thousands of years, right? And when people come to Australia, they feel this energy of Australia, they feel this lightness, this warmth, this relaxation, but they never, maybe they do, but certainly most Caucasian people I know wouldn't say that's because of these thousands of years of Indigenous living in this land. They would say it's because Australian Caucasians, Australian easygoing, you know, all the cliches, right?
Yeah.
So I did this acknowledgement to country, and the only reason I did it, because I was worried I'd get it wrong, is they were late on putting my Slido questions up. So I said, hey, while we're waiting for Slido, I'm going to do an acknowledgement to country. Let's see how I go. And what I said was that I'd been at the Lightscape, that I'd realised that my 4 generations or whatever were just the topsoil of this land, and I wanted to acknowledge the peoples that had looked after it for thousands of years, the energy that they'd instilled in this land, the respect they'd showed for this land, and that I respect their peoples past, present and future. And I thought, well, that felt true to me, but we'll see. And the front table had at least one Indigenous lady on it who I'd met prior. And I followed her out afterwards. I go, okay, my acknowledgement country. It was a bit of a theme of the day. She goes, I thought, oh, here we go. She goes, when you start, I thought, oh, here we go. Acknowledgement of country. I said, what do you think? She goes, solid. And I go, that's good. And she goes, yep. She goes, yep, I could tell you meant what you were saying, solid love. And I go, okay, thanks very much. And I was so happy, you know, because it's that people, it's the heart of what you're doing, right? It's I'm here to do something. I'm here to give you an idea. I'm here to love you. I'm here to let you know, in most cases, I'm not only superior to you, I am inferior to you. Like, there is so much talent and wisdom and love in that room. And so that's why I want to do things the way I want to do them. And as I say it to you, I'm like, yeah, go me. That's a great idea. And then I leave this room and normal life happens, and I'll see a post in LinkedIn that's the opposite of me, and I fall in a hole.
Right,
Go,
right.
what the fuck am I doing? What an idiot. Cut it out. Oh, what a journey.
Isn't it?
Right?
Isn't it?
But as I rave on to you about that experience of being in that room and feel that passion, I can feel the rightness of that. Yeah, I can feel that that's right. If I'm going to do that thing, then for me, that's the way to do it, to make the biggest difference, you know?
Is the rightness.
Yeah, like to do my version where I tell my story, where I be silly, where I tell my jokes, because that's me. I think that's the best impact I can have. Because if I try and do straight or good speaker or whatever.
It doesn't exist. You know, when I worked for this memoir company in Vancouver, I'll never forget this one story. So we would collect people's stories, and these are beautiful books. These are like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 books.
Wow.
Right? And for like golden anniversaries, birthdays, like et cetera, et cetera. One was this teacher, this male teacher had passed away, and his friends and families. He was about 44, I think.
Oh, wow.
And everyone was writing in. And they're putting together this beautiful, beautiful memoir book for him. And my job was to collect. Either to go out and actually interview and collect the stories on audios, and also to collect the photos and collect the little pieces of stories. And then we'd have someone lay it out and hand bind the books, and really gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
And I remember his name was Richard. And I remember reading these. And I remember one, and I just remember just sobbing reading it. And because I feel like this gets to the hub of so many of us in life. Paraphrasing, but Richard always felt like he had to do something more. And he never realized that he was enough just being Richard.
Oh.
And it sounds so simple.
No, it impacts
but it
me as you say
actually
it.
really is.
Yeah.
Right? The Tam that gets up to speak is different to the Cindy that gets up to speak, that gets the next person up to speak.
Yeah.
And the way we can bless and grace everyone
Yeah.
is by being true to how we need to do it.
Yeah.
To bring our best selves forward, to shine. And it doesn't matter how we do it.
Yeah.
So the right way to speak. Can we swear here?
Yeah,
Anyways,
we really can.
can we? Okay,
Fuck
cool.
yeah.
Because it is bullshit. There's so much bullshit.
Yeah.
We're here to self-express.
Yes.
We're not here to copy anyone else. And
No.
yet, how often do we still find ourselves sometimes going, what's the right way? Like, what's the
know.
right way to the podcast? Like, I love the fact that you're doing Tam's way and you're figuring it out along the way, right? And you've got amazing people that I'm pointing over here because I'm not allowed to look
You're
over
not allowed
there.
to look at them. I'll let you look
Right?
one time.
Okay, one time because I'm going to wink because I'm a winker. But you're doing it your way.
Yeah.
And it's so important to remember that. And sometimes we don't know what the way is, but you'll know it when it feels right.
Yeah.
Or that's how you show up the best
Yeah.
or the most confident. Like, just go.
Yeah.
That's what we want. Because if not, we're like every friggin' person, like everyone else.
Yeah.
And then we don't feel like we've been authentic.
I know.
Or we don't feel like we're that great. And we weren't because we weren't us.
Yeah, that's right. That's so full on, that thing about Richard and then what you expressed. It's like the text you sent me before we were doing this. And I said, what do you want to talk about? And you sent me this text. I wrote, that's why I want to have you on the podcast. Because it was like, woo! Now I feel good, Cindy. That's
There
what
you
you
go.
do. That's what you do for women, right?
Awesome.
But, you know, that's so true because if it's true of everyone, everyone's real self is their best self. So then you think, oh, if I bump into people where we can't connect or maybe they don't occur to me so great or whatever, I probably haven't bumped into their real self, right? Because I was sharing with Danielle before, you know, I have, as you would, we have the privilege of meeting people at a place where we get to see them at their most beautiful. And their most beautiful is just them, right? Yeah. They're actually not doing anything apart from showing us their hopes, their fears, their challenges. There's really like, you know, just all these beautiful people running around,
Yeah.
you know, and we're just so lucky because we get to see them. We, Peter Slocum shared in LinkedIn the other day, she had her quiet car and she scared these two people because it was so quiet and they were really rude to her and she responded gently with them. And I was thinking about that afterwards and I thought, yeah, this people knocking into one another's fear or defensiveness, right? And they're not actually like that at all, but they will show that as a protection, you know? And when you go, I remember a guy off in sight years and years and years ago, he came in and I'm going to swear because I have to tell the story. He came into some training we were doing about 6 years ago. We hadn't been up there long and he walked in and they had to come to the training. So they weren't inspired. Anyway, he walked in, sat down, looked at me and said, just so you know, love, I don't fucking want to be here. And, of course, my first internal reaction was, well, you can get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Fuck you, mate. But then I thought, no, that's not going to work from a number of levels. And so anyway, I thought, okay, well, what's going on for him? And so I said to him, oh, that's no good. And he kind of frowned at me, like, what are you doing? And I said, oh, imagine coming in and feeling like that. Like, you really don't want to be here, right? And he goes, no, I don't. And I said, why? Are you worried about it? Are you need to be back at work? He goes, well, I'm busy at work, but I actually don't know what you're going to do. I don't want to do any fucking role plays. You know, people get so frightened. I said, we're not going to do any role plays. We're not going to do any trust falls, group hugs, none of that. He goes, right. And I goes, do I have to come up the front? And I said, no. I go, you can just sit there, all right? And he goes, all right. And I said, do you think you'll be all right? And he goes, yep. And it was beautiful with a lot of swearing. But he was just terrified, right?
Yeah.
So the way he expressed it,
Yeah.
we have a joke where we talk about how men are often only allowed to be angry to cover every one of their other emotions, right? I can only be angry when I'm frightened, angry. When I'm sad, angry. When I'm frustrated, angry. And that's all. His only option was to tell me what to do with myself.
Yeah.
Because he was frightened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
It's I think this is what I noticed with body work and just really coming into a much deeper alignment, which can always go on for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Is there's a space then between something that is said to me or something I witness. There's a space between that happening and me making a choice of how I see them, how I respond, what I take in, what I don't.
Yeah.
And when I don't stay regulated and I don't regulate my nervous system, that space is very small. And then I can go into reactive mode.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I think that's a really important work that we all need to do.
Yeah.
For ourselves, for others, because as you know, like every human, in my belief,
Yeah.
every human is like magnificent.
Yeah.
Like, and I get really emotional talking about this because I really believe it.
Yeah, I know you do.
And to see them and hold them in that space until they can see it themselves.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always going to be us that they need to go through their own journey.
Yeah.
We got to hold them in that space.
Yeah.
And, you talk about the why. I remember when we were in Europe, I met a woman who took my confidence code online from England. So exciting. Ages ago, probably maybe in the same group.
Oh, wow.
And we stayed in touch and so excited to meet each other, actually.
Yeah.
And she dove right into like all these questions, and she's awesome. She's this dynamo. And I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about work.
What?
But she was like, and what's your why? What's your why? And I'm like,
Wow.
whew, I can't remember what it
Yeah,
is.
what's
What the hell is it, right?
Yeah.
But there's two things. So one is I shot that video, my story video, because that reminds me of my why.
Yeah.
But the other one is I just, honestly, if I can leave anyone, even on my walk to school, my favorite cafe that I go to get my almond chai, right? If I can leave them feeling seen and heard in that moment, my day's done.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I'm I actually really mean that. And
I really believe you, because imagine how rare it is for someone to have an interaction where that happens. It's rare.
Totally.
If that was literally what you spent the rest of your life doing, the impact would be you wouldn't need to do anything else than doing that, because it's so rare and beautiful and the impact for the person is so extraordinary.
Yes.
They remember it.
And also you feel that way too.
Yeah.
The truth is that it's such a win-win, right?
Yeah.
And I don't always hit the mark on that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not,
Of course.
But that's what I endeavor to do.
But don't you find what's amazing? The more I was going to use the word nice, that's kind of gross, but the more I be loving and open and myself, the more the world comes back to you that way. Yeah. Like I just don't have a bad experience with people, even total randos, like Grayson, whether it be, I'm super scared of Grayson, he's never threatened me. I'm just a good girl at heart, nervy. Whether it be rando at the shops, or today I was looking at some very exciting stuff around possibly getting a new car, and I was dealing with a fellow around that. And I was like, geez, the more I do this work to be a more loving, open, vulnerable, less fractious person, the more I'm running into people. And what I realised, I was talking to Danielle in our last conversation about Joanna Lumley saying I expect everyone to be loving, and then if they're not, I figure it out after that. But if I start from that place, people can only be what you expect them to be. Yeah. So people are really, really awesome. And then I realised when I read her quote, I thought I'm actually a little bit different because of what we've talked about with groups, social anxiety, etc. The shift now for me is professionally I can do it, with strangers I can do it, and now it's for new people that could be in a friendship situation. I'll be more sus of them as a first. I've realised I'm not quite like mums at school or whatever. If I don't know them, I go, what's your story?
Yeah.
Right? Who are you going to be? I don't know about you, which is like, that's funny, because why would I do that there when I don't do it other places, right? I must have something to sort of figure out, or a defensiveness in myself where I don't feel as instantly safe, or I have to be a bit careful.
Yeah.
Whereas I could come at them the same way. I'm actually doing self-coaching as we speak.
You are actually.
Won't be a moment.
I'm just giving you space to
right?
do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's something there, right? If I came at them from loving straight away, I think it could get overwhelming. Like I don't really have much time for that side of life.
Okay, so maybe there's a time thing.
Because I'm like, I can't hang out and be close with all the mums at school because there's not enough time and I have to do the quick kiss and drop and kiss and pick up.
But how long does love take?
But then they might want something from me, Cindy.
And what's a loving response?
This might take longer.
That doesn't start with F.
No, it's very neutral. It's kind of unlovingly neutral. Yeah, so I don't take up the listener's time, but I will have a think about this because there is definitely something that's like, no, I don't want to do that there. Yeah, it is. It's if I do the loving thing, then they'll want to chat. I don't have time to chat and I don't know how to say no to mummy kind of small talk because there's a whole agreement that we do mummy small talk. I'm not into it at all. I don't like it. I really like some of the people. They're very nice and I have friends from school, but we've moved past mummy small talk and I don't need any more mummy small talk friends. We've totally figured this out. So now what we need to do is go, how do I be loving without inviting a social interaction I don't want? Over to you, Cindy.
But is ready to solve it?
Yes, thank you. Go.
My head's going. No. But how many times do most of us do that? Whether we're walking down the streets, rocking the bus, we're at the shops. Do I want to talk to the cashier? Do I not? Is it going to take more time? Is it not? Right? We're worried about, well, one, the time. We're really screwed up when it comes to time. We've got that so backwards.
Yeah. We really
do, because you know what? What if you actually
what are we rushing off to
do?
Watch Netflix.
More turning our backs, more like not engaging with other people.
Right.
Like more I don't want to get any
I gotta go.
More contact. I
gotta go.
I've got to go be seen. I've got to be authentic. I've got to race from you so I can be my authentic self.
Oh, that's perfect.
And be loving to other people where I feel
Who
safe.
are not you.
Who are not you.
That's perfect.
I'm grappling this myself too, because I do think this is a big growth for many of us.
Yes.
You pass someone on the street, right? And I think sometimes, I know myself, sometimes I can look and I just like smile at them and beam and keep walking. And I don't make up a story. I don't worry that they're going to or anything.
Yeah.
But there's other times where I'm like, I might see somebody I know across the street. They might not see me. And I can sometimes be like, I just don't feel like it today.
No, I do that all the time.
I just don't feel like it today.
I think it's why people text instead of calling, because you don't have to do the, hey, how are ya? And that bit is like, oh.
So true.
And as we all get faster for no reason, because we have to get back to our scrolling, our authentic scrolling. Like that, but that is actually what it is. It's that I am a very funny creature because I can stand up and speak, I can do this, but actually small talky kind of conversation, I actually think I'm almost on the spectrum. And I don't even say that lightheartedly. I really struggle with how to start and end. I don't think people know this about me because I cover it with kind of being overly confident, that's very real, no further questions. They won't feel the space that I'm uncomfortable. But I actually won't know. If you're another mum at school and I was in a hurry, I don't really know how to go, hey, Cindy, how are you? And then quickly exit the conversation without you feeling put out. Like, it's a whole world for me that is, I don't know if it's there for anyone else, but for me it's like I'd rather not start that awkward interaction because I actually don't know how to elegantly join it, love you, and elegantly leave, right?
Right.
Yeah.
See, I can solve it for you, but not for myself.
Oh, good. Can you solve it for me?
You just give a big smile. All you do, you don't need to invite in conversation.
Okay.
Because there's times where honestly, that's not where we want to be putting our energy and time. Like physical energy and time. We do have other places that we want to get to.
Yeah.
We want to stay true to that or that commitment.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's loving. That's loving.
Yeah.
To honor where we need to be.
Yeah. Okay.
But if we need to anytime we close ourselves off in that moment.
Yes.
We hold ourselves back a little bit. And then what happens is we bring it into that next little segment. And then we're driving back to work and then we're like, oh. Yeah. You just kind of think about that. You're not as now present in this moment.
Yes.
And sometimes it can just be fine. But other times we carry those little closings of ourselves off throughout the day.
Yes.
Right? It can simply be a big warm smile.
Yes.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yes.
And keep walking.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You see him go, Tam, you look amazing in that beautiful sweater. Have an awesome day. Off you go.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Self-expressed. Off
Yeah.
you go.
Okay. So it's perfect, right?
Have I solved it?
Yeah, but also you opened up a second level. It's like on a game. I don't play games, but I know second levels can open, or boss level.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I wasn't being loving. What I actually do is with people I know, I do exactly what you just said. I go, hey, how are you? And then I keep on walking feeling guilty that I should have stopped and chatted. But for no reason, they're not desperate to talk to me. You know, it's quite an arrogant guilt, actually. Like, hey, how are you? No, bad luck to you. I am living a bigger life.
Bad luck to you. I'm pulling my beautiful light away from you. You won't shine as bright now that the Tam sun is gone.
Right? How are you going to get on with your day? There's some sort of thing like that. Definitely. Oh, I hate learning new things about myself. So there's that, and then there's the I know the people I know, so I can beam at them. I'll beam at strangers, and then the ones that there could be more of like I've beamed at them a few times, and there could be a growing relationship. Then I'm like, no, I don't have time for that. So then I just kind of go into shutdown mode. This was quite a deep conversation for not a particularly deep topic, but to be honest, it has been a worry for me since Sam has been at school. How do I best lovingly and the way I want to interact? Because there's all these rules and I don't really follow them, you know, like mums do a certain thing.
You brought this back up at Rise to Shine. This was still topics at Rise to Shine.
It was more of a topic
so
at
it was
Rise
even
to
more.
Shine.
Like there was a very
I had
heightened
mind-blowing anxiety back then about it.
Yeah, you did.
Now it's like, compared with then, if that was, let's say 100, now it's like probably 10 to 20 depending on the day. But that flavour's still there, right? It used to be mind-blowing anxiety. Now it's kind of a discomfort. I should be doing. This is where 50-50 came from, because I'm 51%, nah, fuck you all, I'm going to just do my thing, and 49%, sorry, what are the mums doing so I can do it too?
And that's why so many people will resonate with it and will continue to resonate with it, because that's a big part of our experience. I know for myself, there was this tension always going, there's a part of me that's so rogue. There's a part of me that honestly, I'm the first one that's going to go skinny dipping.
Yeah.
I'm like, wah, right?
Yeah.
And then, and trying brand new things, like cool new adventures, all that.
Yeah.
And then that good girl thing would like leak out in the weirdest spot. And I'd be like, like, what is that?
Yeah, what
and
is
that was
that?
that big inner tension in me for so long.
Yeah.
And, you know, depending on which one I would identify with, I'd either feel really free or I'd feel like I'm trapped, like what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's anxiety, whatever it is, I think there's a lot of us that are, you know, or this has been a big part of our adult journey, is to just bring that gap, to make it smaller and smaller.
And also the last time Danielle and I were speaking, I talked about this magical thing happened where I ran into a fellow at Midland Gate, and he's a very spiritual fellow, and he happened to start talking to me about the 1111 sort of spiritual energy, and then he was talking about how positive can't happen with negative, and then I was speaking to someone else who was talking about the importance of suffering, and actually the fact that these tensions are okay. They never feel okay, because when everything feels good, that feels okay, right? We're pleasure-seeking creatures. We don't like discomfort. But actually, one can't, like I can imagine, almost like caterpillar, right? I can't imagine if I hadn't felt the fear or the saboteur that the next interesting thing I had to say that could help someone would come out of me, you know? Even in talking to you as I go, what's that? I go, oh, move forward a bit. And then there's something new. Whereas if I was just like, hey, Cindy, all's well, how are you?
Yeah. I'm fine.
Oh, good. Oh, good. We're all fine.
Brilliant. And that's a wrap.
And that's a wrap. Great to have you here.
Right.
Let's do our Instagram reels before we go. I shouldn't be teasing about that because I'm very excited, because Grayson's little sister Elle is now my social media manager, and I'm going to start appearing on Instagram because of her dab hand.
You've got the team. You've got the dream
It would
machine.
not be happening without the team. It's been a miracle. Honestly, I say there would be badly recorded audio footage on my phone that would be unlistenable to. And the guest would be like, really? We're going to huddle around your phone in the back room of your...
But honestly, Tam, I think this is something to remember. And I know you know this, but I think it's important for even like anyone listening to remember this. Anytime any of us choose something that feels so good for us, a team comes around us.
Yeah.
We might not even know who they are. We might not even know we need a team
Yeah.
or we want a team or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah.
that. But things fall into place.
Yes.
It's following that good feeling
Yes.
of which some people are so numb to,
Yes.
or they feel it's frivolous.
Yes.
Or if you can't say that A is going to lead to B,
I know.
then no,
No.
right?
No.
Where's the magic in that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the reason I'm just say that I'm
No,
kind
I
of
love
being
it.
that mirror back.
I love it.
That's why. And the most beautiful thing is in you going on this journey,
Yes.
which is a personal journey that you're sharing, that you let us join you for different moments.
Yes.
All the people that get to listen in, but also your team get to have a space to share their talents and grow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's
And we
really
forget
beautiful.
about that.
Yeah, look, I don't know if I've ever had a stronger example of it than this experience. I think because of the clarity of the joy of the idea and the lightness, when Ash said, maybe you should have a podcast, and after the speech, I was standing in that room and I went, maybe I should have a podcast, clouds part, beam down. And it was this light feeling of lightness and joy. And then Danielle and I caught up, had our lunch. She said, I'm going to have a podcast studio. I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Grayson does AV. I'm like, this is getting out of hand. And the ease, like, people say, and then it's easy and things flow. And before you've had that kind of experience really happen, it doesn't feel like that could possibly be right. And then as it starts to happen, you go, that can possibly be right. Like, wow, that was so amazing. And then the other thing that happens is every time my saboteurs really wanted to get me or I'm at my worst point of pain, something will show up to show me the way or comfort me. It's happened whether it be that I talk to Danielle, whether I run into someone, whether I read a post, whether someone will comment out of the blue about something I've shared in a way that they say it meant something to them, right when I thought this is just what a silly idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I've had these little, Peter was talking about as a coach, putting tea lights on the path. It feels like this path has got its own tea lights. And so I feel really blessed and really lucky and really looked after. I feel very looked after by whoever's looking after me on this plane or perhaps another, I feel like, oh, thanks very much, I think when you're well-intentioned and you really want to do stuff, there's a lot of support to be found, right? Yeah. And also when you've done good work and given a lot for people, and people have given a hell of a lot more than I have, but I have tried to be of use to people for a very long time. I do think sometimes you get some good stuff back from that, I don't know quite what I think of karma. I think terrible things happen to wonderful people, so I'm not sure about it. But I have had the experience of getting back what I'm giving out and it getting sort of nicer and nicer.
Well, it doesn't always come back from the person that you give it out to.
Well, that's true.
I think that's part of it, right? Sometimes we have this expectation.
Yeah.
It actually comes around in many different forms.
Yeah. And also being generous and, I've talked on this podcast about sense of scarcity. It's been one of my stories. Like, if you're succeeding, I'm not. And in this journey, I'm starting to let go of more and more of that. But also as I do my own thing, there's no comparison, therefore no risk of scarcity, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, Tam, there's you, and then you're doing your thing, and how can that possibly be impacted? It's not.
That's the whole thing. Is the more we do us.
Yeah.
There is no other compare,
us, right?
But if you're trying to do what you think how it's supposed to be,
yeah,
which is what I was going to come back to with your rules that you talked about with the mummy rules.
Yeah.
That's the rules like LinkedIn, the rules like this.
Yeah.
It's all a facade.
Yeah, it's all a facade.
There's no rules.
Yeah, there's no rules.
There's no rules. We think there are.
I know, I really think there are. And then I don't. It's like you said, I'll be the first one in skinny dip. I go, yeah, let's have a podcast. No worries. I'll talk about whatever I want. I'll go on my chair, no makeup, whisper, and Sam's asleep. Do all that. And then I go,
yeah.
that was a bit funny. Right? But the other part, like as you say, I'll be the first one skinny. I can totally see that, right? Because you can feel your aliveness, right?
Yeah.
So then, of course, as you say whatever, oh, Cindy, you never have to worry. Just be you. It'll be perfect, right? And then, of course, you say the same to me. We're all saying it to one another.
We are. But I mean, it's probably the most frustrating thing ever. Think of when you're younger. Just be you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, honestly, even now, it can be like, well, what the hell does that mean? It should feel like the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Right? But anytime we've put on masks,
Yeah.
anytime, which a lot of us have.
Of course.
Right? But it's always that unwinding.
Yeah.
And anything that feels yuck, that's because your heart knows that that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, what they call the imposter syndrome. I think we've got it like the opposite. Like, imposter syndrome is like, oh, I haven't been here. Like, oh, it's like actually imposter syndrome is when we're not really expressing ourselves, when we're not actually doing. That's when we're the imposter.
Yeah.
And we're unwinding ourselves from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like the opposite.
Yeah, it's like the opposite. Oh, you said something and it made me think of something that's immediately left my mind. It was about being ourselves. I don't know if it's going to come back. I hate that. I hate that. I've now added estrogen into the hormone replacement and my memory is better, but we still have, not quite senior moments.
And I cannot help you there. Not only do I suffer from malapropism, I have those. I was just watching a Friends episode randomly recently, and Joey was teaching how he learned how to act. And he's like, you always have these moments where you just pause. And it's like, you look like you have to fart. And it would show him when he was Drake Ramore, I go, And I'm laughing going, I'm going to use that now when I'm actually really trying to find a word that I can't remember. Or a thought. I'll be like...
Do your soap opera.
Do my soap opera, like... And hopefully they'll just think I'm just really deeply taking it. But what the truth is that
I don't know what's next.
Idea.
I remember turning to the whiteboard once in training and whatever I was going to do left my mind and this intense anxiety overcame me. And I just started drawing a circle on the whiteboard going, please, God, let me come back.
come back.
Please. I don't know what I said. I probably said turn to the person next to you and have a chat about what we've been doing. The emergency trainer break.
Always.
Turn to the person next to you. Maybe now's a good time for a loo break as I re-engage my brain. I know what I was going to say was really good too. Might have to put in the show notes.
Okay, it'll come.
So what do we need to talk about that we haven't that will... I feel like it's been really good talk.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I feel like we've been here for 10 minutes, but it's probably been an hour and a half.
I don't know. I feel like Jason put a sign up. He normally puts a sign up when it's been an hour. I feel like that both came up and it may have been a while ago. But I like when there's... He just gave me the thumbs up. We have no idea how long we've been talking for. Welcome back to part 2 of the Cindy Kendi interview.
I look forward to it.
That's what I say about Andy. He'll be my returning guest and he's my husband. We'll put in the show notes whatever magical thing I was thinking of. I'll probably go, I decided I was going to have a cake after the interview, but I feel like it was something useful. Anyway, I'll put that in the show notes. But what else do people need to know about the work you're doing, how can they access the beauty of Cindy?
Oh, that's a great question because I have been quiet the last 6 months doing a lot of healing. So I haven't actually been as out there as possible. So people are like, where are you? So probably at the moment, go to my website.
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, are you still in the healing mode? Like, would you prefer to launch whatever's next when the time comes?
Yeah. Well, there's a really beautiful project that I've been working on, but I'm not, it comes and goes based on my capacity at the time.
Okay.
So I'm excited if it was... I'm close to sharing that with you, but I'm not quite ready to share that with you. So I would, that will be exciting to share when it's ready.
Oh, how cool.
But to be honest, go to my website. That's probably the best place to kind of see where, what I'm doing.
And also the flavour of you.
Yeah, and the flavour of me. And I think that's a big thing that's why I do what I do, the way I do it.
Yeah.
Is I always want even corporately, I want women to self-select.
Yes.
I don't want anyone to come and be told,
oh, yeah,
you must
go
do that. Super important. when I do get back to actually running more online, which will be coming up actually very shortly, same thing. Women get to self-select themselves. And yeah, so stay tuned. Probably that's the
Okay.
best way to do
Perfect.
it.
So what we might do is when you're ready to launch the next thing, we'll either get you back in to announce it
Okay.
or you tell me and then I'll put it on one of my Friday 50/50s. Hey, here's some good news.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, whichever you prefer. And
Yeah.
then I'm sure we'll find another excuse to talk about something because it's
Yeah.
very enjoyable. And also you being here, I was like, yeah, we probably should have a coffee because it's been too long.
It's been a long time. It's good we're having water. I'm sipping my tea.
Right? Is it
tea.
chai tea?
It's not actually. It's some kind of herbal.
Oh, was this your gift from Danielle? Oh, no, you brought it with you. Danielle
Yes.
just shook her head.
Yeah, no, I had strawberries. She gave me strawberries.
Oh, that's right.
Because I worked out too much this morning.
Oh, that's very good.
Yes. So I don't know what else to really say. I think it's just more. I continue to evolve with my work.
Yes.
And I definitely notice my energy has changed a lot. I notice that it is more aligned.
Yes.
It is more clear.
Yes.
That, yeah, I'm just really excited for kind of the next foray.
Yeah, how cool.
Yeah, I really am. And
if it's useful for you to hear from me as well, I can feel exactly what you're talking about energetically.
Can you?
Yep, absolutely. You've always had that, but it's at the next level of grounded and safe and love. And yeah, you can feel you've gone to the next level of synchronicity, synergy. There's something like that.
So like that. Yeah, that's what I'm calling it, alignment.
There you
like
go.
I'm alignment.
That's right.
Yeah, it feels good. And so for me, it feels like when I'm ready to put that out there, I mean, it's coming out.
Yeah,
but when I'm ready to put it out there in a way where people go, oh, now I know how to come in.
Yeah.
And beyond corporate.
Yeah.
I'm excited to.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So I realised what I was going to say. It was about the being the good girl thing, and we were talking about life, and I remember saying, oh, you said just be who you are. I remember someone saying to me several years ago, almost probably 2 decades ago, they said, well, it's your life. And I went, what? And it was one of these moments where I realised I was so habitually trained to put other people ahead of me that I couldn't comprehend what they were saying.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And then one of my girlfriends said to me about her husband, this is years and years ago, she goes, I just like hanging out with him. And I was in a relationship at the time that I was struggling terribly to have succeed, that didn't succeed. And I was like, you just like hanging out with him? I was like, what strange planet is this?
Isn't that so? You look back and go, God, who was I that actually thought that was enough for me?
It's your life, and I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. It's your life. It's like when you said to the lady, said the braking system's changed, and you're like, I better not say no. And then you go, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all lucky because we got the outcome of you. And I get for you it was it has had probably, like a lot of people say about big events like that, when they've been able to grow from it like you have, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I only think that's true if you're willing to have that be the case.
Yes.
But, I think that's, for me, that's the piece that I feel the greater alignment for you. I feel like you have more self-love and self-wisdom, that part of you that was a bit more concerned what other people think or how you look, exactly like what I was talking about today, that is not really there now. That's the sort of, how nice.
It's lovely to feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's that deliciously selfish thing that I'm very much a part of.
Oh, yeah.
That's...
Because it's not selfish at all.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's about, everything is about ourselves.
Yeah.
Everything. I know it sounds so cliche, but it is so true. And it's not knowing it here, it's embodying it. That's the difference. Like, women I work with are smart, super smart.
Oh, yeah.
But man doesn't mean that they or myself previously had embodied the wisdom.
No.
Very different.
Very different.
Very different. And that's a process. And that's a huge trusting process. And that's putting yourself first.
Yes.
Besides getting the next certificate or I see that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm called to do this work, or I really want to work on myself, or my relationship's not really good. But you know what? I'm not ready to actually deal with that relationship. So I'm going to go and get the next certification for my business.
Yeah,
Yeah, good on you, because that's easy. That's comfortable.
Yeah,
You're going
yeah.
to shine there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's proof that I'm all right? I get the
Yep.
next certification.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's one of the guests we had on here, we haven't published yet. She comments on that and says, I never have felt good enough, so I'm always getting my next certification.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and that mental versus body, like the smarts versus the wise, the intellectual versus the stable in one's core, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And the joy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the joy, because it doesn't matter what we do. It never actually matters what we do.
No.
It's just who we are as we do anything.
Yeah,
And the joy that we feel and the joy that we share
yeah, yeah,
from it.
yeah. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Aren't we lucky?
I know.
And I
We
was very
are.
lucky to have you here
Oh,
today.
I'm so excited, Tam. It's so
Oh,
fun to be here.
it's so nice. I was thinking I should have Kat on maybe
Oh, absolutely.
because she's
Kat.
amazing.
Yeah, she is.
Hi, Kat. That's Kat Ferry. I know you know who you are, but just shout out there. No pressure. But maybe,
There's so many amazing humans. Are
Oh,
you just
yeah.
interviewing women?
Do you know what? Not officially.
Okay.
But we certainly have had women, and in the queue is women. And then I have, I didn't mention to you earlier, but do you know the fellow Stephen Biddulph who did Raising Boys?
Yes.
Oh my God. Have you seen? He's got a new book coming out. It's just launched, Wild Creature Mind. He is on Facebook, and he was part of my inspiration for staying open and vulnerable. A little bit like Oprah. She's very vulnerable with 1 billion followers. He's very vulnerable with 500,000. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be too with 7. But that's okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It all started with 7. That's a lucky number.
Right? But anyway, have a look if you haven't already. He's got a Facebook page, and the picture at the top says A Decade of Farewell, and he's put these posts about his process of launching this book and the difference it's going to make to people. And he's on a publicity trail at the moment, but I recommend everyone have a look at it for the beauty of his vulnerability and authenticity. It's quite extraordinary.
What's the new book called?
Wild Creature Mind. So he talks about how anxiety is. I've ordered my book, but it hasn't arrived yet. He talks about how anxiety lives in us in maybe the right hemisphere, how it can occur like an animal would feel anxious, but I've got so little because I haven't read it yet. But he talks about getting in touch, and he says he does it several times a day. I use on Waking Up by Sam Harris, I use Stefan Bodian's Welcoming Emotions, and depending on the day, I can do that several times a day, where it helps me get back in touch with what's the feeling, then what's the story I've made up, then letting go of the story. Really powerful. But anyway, the reason I mention him is, one, I want to have him on the podcast, but I'm only going to ask him when he's finished his massive publicity tour, because he said it's taking it out of him a bit. Plus, who am I? See, that's the thing, right? You go, like Danielle and I have decided we're just going to ask everyone.
Love it.
And then they can or they can't, right? And then I'll get them to listen to it. And I think he's the kind of fellow, if he listens to me talk and goes, oh, yeah, I dig that chick, he'll do it. He would definitely not say dig that chick. He's like 75 and very respectful, but you get the idea. Every podcast we do a call out for me to talk to Hugh Laurie. Hi, Hugh. And RuPaul. So, yeah. So anyway, I got lost because I started fantasising again, but hopefully himself, a fellow I know that's done a startup out of Sydney that I'm hoping to interview. But I think at the moment, apart from my dream interview, Andy. I've interviewed Andy.
Oh, my God.
And he'll be a returning
I can't wait to hear on that one.
Yes. Andy is amazing. The amount he knows about so many things. At one point I realised just how superior is the right word in terms of how much he knows. And because of my self-protective mechanisms that I got from my own family, I made sure I wasn't very conscious to how good he was. And then one day I really got it, how much he knows, what he can do as a trainer, what he can do with IT, everything. And I said to him, oh, wow, you're doing really well. And I was like, I'm very uncomfortable now because you're very impressive and it's making me not feel as impressive. And then I quickly squished that, and it goes back to his very ordinary fellow. He's lucky to have me, Cindy.
He's the nymph.
Quite frankly. That's right. That's why I tell the occasional nymph story. Keep him in his stride. It's a good note to end on, isn't it? Love you, honey.
Aww. good to have these partners who support us.
I know we might have to have a one where we talk about our partners and the what it is to be married. We could have a whole discussion.
Oh, that's a whole another thing. I tell you
Oh,
what.
Lord.
Yeah.
And how to be our most wonderful self in that situation, which I am at all times. So it's easy. Anyone wants any tips?
Michael and I thought about actually doing a podcast, like creating a podcast together.
Hey.
Yeah.
Do you know what
There's
I
not
thought?
that many out there.
Well, and I thought with Andy and I thought we do tend to get, it's a bit of a stumbling path, but we do tend to get better and better with how we are with one another. And I thought eventually we can be like one of those couple therapists that actually have a good marriage and then help other people, like the Gottmans. You know the Gottmans?
But you need to actually capture the process.
Oh, we can do that.
Right? Yeah.
That's what I said to him when I interviewed him on this. I said, now everyone's going to believe me when I say, I can be a real bitch. I've got the literal person. But he's very kind. He goes, no, you're right, honey. And I'm like, oh, that's right.
Oh, Tim.
Good job, honey.
Oh,
thanks, Cindy.
pleasure, honey.
See you soon.